They said my kids were too wild for Grandma's birthday weekend, so we stayed home. Then I saw the photos. My cousin's dogs were there, in party hats. I didn't yell. Just made one call. 2 days later, my aunt was screaming into her phone. I was angry. The kind of anger that doesn't shout, it just sits there, waiting. And I sat with it for hours, all through Sunday afternoon, staring at the photos they didn't mean for me to see. The party had happened. A full celebration. Streamers. Tablecloths. Wine glasses. Everyone dressed up like they hadn't just told me it would be a small thing, because Mom's energy is low. There was even a sign taped to the sliding glass door that said, "Cheers to 70 years," in gold letters. My aunt was smiling in one picture, holding a mimosa in one hand and a cupcake in the other. My cousin's daughter was twirling a sparkly ribbon in the corner. My sister was in 5 different pictures, holding court like she'd planned the whole thing. And then I saw the dogs. Jenna's golden retrievers. They were wearing pastel blue party hats. One of them had a bib that said, "Birthday boy." They sat next to Grandma in the group photo, right there at her feet like 2 prized children. I stared at that photo for a long time. My kids, my actual children, were told they couldn't come because they were a little too wild. That's what my sister said in a voice note 3 days before the party. It's just that Mom doesn't really have the energy to deal with the boys right now. You know how they get. I knew exactly what she meant. I always knew. They see my kids as noise. They see me as the mess that happened after my husband left. But they had the nerve to invite dogs. My boys had spent the whole week working on a card for their grandmother. Markers, glitter, and something sticky I still haven't identified. They were excited. They kept asking if she'd like it. I told them of course she would. I didn't have the heart to explain why we weren't going. I just said Grandma needed a quiet day. They bought it. They always buy it. That night, once they were in bed, I went into the kitchen and opened my file folder. I don't keep much paper anymore, but I do keep screenshots. Venmo, July 3rd. $3,000. Memo, kitchen holdover till loan clears. That loan never cleared. That payback never happened. That money was supposed to be short-term. She said she'd return it by Thanksgiving. I waited through Thanksgiving. Then Christmas. Then spring. I didn't push because that's what they expect from me. Stacy, the helper. Stacy, the understanding one. The peacemaker with a broken marriage, raising 2 boys alone and still covering everyone's rent when things get tight. That night, I stopped being that version of me. I called Julia. She's my lawyer, and she's good. I asked her what I'd need to file a claim. She asked if I had proof. I said I had it all. She told me small claims court was straightforward. Once we file, she'll have 30 days to respond. Most likely she'll settle before it gets that far. I didn't text my mom. I didn't explain anything. I just sent Julia everything she needed and went to bed. 2 days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was my mother, of course. No hello, just straight into screaming. She said she couldn't believe I was doing this. She said I was attacking her. She said I was breaking her heart. No mention of the party. No mention of my kids. Just a lot of crying blame, and her usual phrase when she's cornered, "After everything I've done for you." The thing is, I used to fall for that. Not this time. And that was just the beginning. The worst was still coming. The day after my mother's phone meltdown, the messages started coming in from my sister. Long ones. Paragraphs. She'd clearly been rehearsing this. At first, it was all about how Mom's under a lot of stress, and this isn't how family should handle conflict. Then she pivoted, said she understood my frustration, but wished I'd talked to them before getting lawyers involved. Talked to them? Like I hadn't been hinting about that money for months? Like I hadn't brought it up 3 different times, only to get the same excuses? It's just not a good time, Stace. Let's wait until after the holidays. Then it was, we're still fixing things in the house. Then nothing at all. They knew. They just didn't care. I didn't respond to my sister right away. I let her keep typing. 5 texts in a row. Then a voice memo. Then a guilt trip cherry on top. It's just sad that the boys won't have their grandparents in their lives because of all this. Right. Because of me. That night, my oldest son asked when he could go see Grandma again. I told him we were giving Grandma some space. He frowned, but he nodded. I don't think he believed me. I kept things quiet for the next few days. Let them stew. Julia submitted the paperwork. It was real now. My mother would be getting a certified letter soon. Part of me felt sick about it. The other part felt clean. Like something rotten had finally been scraped off. The rent money was next. Every month for almost a year, I'd been covering the extra $600 for my parents' apartment in Sacramento. My dad retired early and didn't plan well. My mom never worked much. When they moved into that 2-bedroom place, they said they just needed a little help for a few months. That was 2 years ago. Now it was just expected. Never thanked. Rarely even acknowledged. That same week, while this storm was brewing, I got a notification from my bank. My sister's portion of their rent hadn't gone through. Again. That meant the full payment would be pulled from my account. Again. I called her. She picked up like she'd been expecting it. I didn't yell. I just asked if she planned on paying her half. She said, "I will, but don't take it out on Mom. She didn't mean to hurt you. This is all just escalating too fast." I said, "It escalated the second they decided dogs were more welcome than my kids." Silence. Then she had the audacity to say, "But they're not your dogs, Stace. You know what I mean. Dogs don't throw tantrums." I hung up. That night I typed up a message. A very clear one. I told them I wouldn't be covering their rent anymore. Not $1. Not until the $3,000 was paid back, and not until they started acting like my kids mattered as much as Jenna's dogs. I hit send and turned off my phone. The next morning, my mom showed up at my door. And she wasn't crying anymore. She didn't knock. Just rang the bell twice, like it was her house. I opened the door and there she was. No smile, no apology. Her first words. "You're humiliating me." She said the $3,000 wasn't a real loan, more like a family favor. Said I was being cold, dragging this into court like some stranger. Then she said the line that finally broke whatever was left. "It was just easier without your boys there." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "It was a mistake." Just easier. I told her the lawsuit was happening. That I wasn't playing along anymore. She said she didn't have the money. I told her that made 2 of us. She walked away without looking back. The next day, my dad called. Defending her, of course. Said I was tearing the family apart. Said she'd always been there for me. I asked him what he thought she owed me for paying their rent for a year. He hung up. My sister tried to play mediator. Said we should all sit down and clear the air. I reminded her she hadn't paid her share of the rent in 2 months, and suddenly she wasn't so interested in family peace anymore. By the end of the week, Julia got word from their lawyer. Not a denial, just a request for more time. They were stalling. But I'd already waited long enough. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten, thick paper, no return address. It was from my mom. 3 pages long, front and back. It started off like I expected. Sad tone. Guilt. This family used to be so close. Mentions of holidays past, how hard things have been since Dad's retirement, how I used to have such a generous heart. But halfway through, it turned. She said she had spoken to a pastor. Not our pastor, we don't go to the same church anymore, but someone she found online. Apparently, he told her that what I was doing was financial abuse. She underlined that part twice. She wrote, "You're using money to control and punish your own mother." That made me laugh for real. I'd been giving them money for years, without a single condition. I wasn't trying to control anything. I was trying to get back what they owed. Then came the threat. If I didn't drop the lawsuit, she said she'd tell the family everything. Everything you told me in confidence after the divorce. That part chilled me. Because she did know things. Things I told her during the worst weeks of my life. About my ex, about things I did to keep the boys fed when money was tight. About a job I lost for reasons I never even told my friends. I hadn't thought of those things in a long time. Now she was holding them like weapons. I brought the letter straight to Julia. She read it twice and looked at me carefully. "This actually helps you," she said. "It shows intent to intimidate. It's good evidence." Good evidence. That phrase stuck in my head all night. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. My sister called me in tears. Not fake ones, real sobbing, the kind you can't fake over the phone. She said she didn't know about the letter. Said she'd seen it on the dining table and made a copy. And then she said something that stopped me cold. "She also made one for your ex." Apparently, my mom had reached out to him. Tried to warn him about what I was doing. Said I was unstable, turning the boys against their father, weaponizing money. That wasn't just petty. That was dangerous. I ended the call and sat in silence for a long time. I stared at the dark ceiling, listening to my kids breathe through the baby monitor, knowing I couldn't undo any of it. But I could still finish what I started. My mother thought this was still a game. She hadn't realized yet that I'd already stopped playing. 2 days after my sister's call, my ex sent me a text. "Your mom's been calling me. What the hell is going on?" I didn't answer. I didn't even touch my phone for a while. I just sat on the edge of my bed, realizing that she had actually gone there. That she'd contacted the one person she knew could make my life harder if he wanted to. He and I aren't close. We keep things civil for the boys, but we've had enough courtroom hours between us that one bad story could set everything off again. And she knew that. That was the whole point. I forwarded the letter and my ex's message to Julia. She called me that night. "This is borderline harassment," she said. "And if she's contacting him, we need to be ready for more." That word again. Ready. I spent the next day putting together everything I had. Texts, emails, the letter, the Venmo receipts. All of it went into a folder labeled Mother, 2025. I thought about how ridiculous it felt, filing my own mother into legal evidence. Then Friday came. It was my day off, the boys were home, and we were just finishing lunch when someone knocked. I looked through the peephole and saw my sister, standing there with her arms crossed, holding something under one arm. I opened the door because I didn't want a scene in front of the boys. She walked in without asking and handed me a small cardboard box. "I didn't want to text this," she said. Inside were photos. Printed ones. Old birthday parties, Christmases. A baby picture of my oldest sitting on my mother's lap. On top was a folded piece of paper. A note, in my mother's handwriting. "If you don't want to be part of this family, we're giving you space to make that decision. Please return anything you feel belongs to us." There was nothing else in the box. Just pictures that used to mean something and a note that sounded like a breakup letter. I looked at my sister. She didn't look angry. Just tired. "They're moving out," she said. "They told the landlord they can't make rent. Said you pulled support suddenly. He's giving them 2 weeks." I asked if she was serious. "They're going to Jenna's," she added quietly. "Guest room and a pullout." Of course. Jenna and the dogs. I asked if she believed what Mom was saying. About me, about the lawsuit, about all of it. She didn't answer. Just said, "You should have handled this privately." I reminded her that I tried. For a year. She left, box still sitting on the kitchen table, like a gift no one wanted to open. Later that night, I got an email from my dad. Long one. Too long. It was full of lines like, "Your mother can't even sleep," and "We've done everything we could for you," and "Money changes people." He ended it by telling me I needed to let go of all this resentment and be the bigger person. My favorite part. When he said "You're acting like money makes you important." That was it. I printed the email and added it to the folder. Called Julia the next morning. We pushed forward. No more delays. We were filing to garnish if they didn't respond in 10 days. I didn't tell anyone. Let them find out from a letter, just like I found out about the party. That evening, my youngest came into the room holding a drawing. It was him, his brother, and Grandma, all holding hands under a tree. They had little smiling faces and matching hats. He asked if we could send it to her. I told him not right now. He didn't ask why. He just looked at the picture for a second, then walked away with it still in his hand. Folded it up and tucked it into his backpack like it was something private. Something he'd figure out how to deliver on his own someday. By Monday, something shifted. I felt it before I saw it. Calls stopped. No new messages. No guilt texts from my sister. No vague Bible verses from my mother. Nothing from my dad. It went quiet. That kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like something's being planned. Julia called in the afternoon. "You're not going to like this," she said. They responded to the claim, but not how we expected. Instead of admitting the debt or asking for more time, my mother's lawyer submitted a counterclaim. Said I'd made verbal agreements to support my parents during their retirement, and that cutting off financial help constituted intentional emotional distress. A stretch, obviously, but not meaningless. Enough to delay the ruling. I laughed when I read it. The kind of laugh that sounds like someone else's. Julia wasn't amused. "They're trying to buy time and push you into a corner," she said. "It's petty, but they're forcing a mess." I sat with that all night, just letting it settle. They were actually trying to turn me into the aggressor. After everything I'd paid for. After everything they'd taken. That week, I got another surprise. I walked into my apartment building's laundry room and saw Jenna. Folding sheets. I hadn't even known she was staying there. Apparently, she'd subleased one of the small units on the second floor for the summer. She looked surprised too, but not embarrassed. She gave me that practiced cousin smile. "I ran into your mom," she said like it was nothing. She said you two are going through something. I didn't reply. I just waited. She said you had a rough spell after the divorce, that you're still working through stuff. There it was. The Whisper campaign, already in motion. I looked at her and said, "Did she tell you about the money she owes me?" Jenna blinked, then smiled tighter. Families go through stuff. She's still your mom. No one ever says that to the takers. Just the ones who finally stop giving. The next day, I pulled my financials. All of them. Bank records, transfers, even grocery receipts from when I covered my sister's food bills. I printed everything and sent copies to Julia. We were going to bury the counterclaim in facts. And then, I cut the last cord. I opened the Rent app and removed my payment method. Then I logged into the shared grocery delivery account we'd all been using and changed the password. One by one, I shut every door they still had a key to. That weekend, I took the boys to a park out of town. Somewhere we'd never been. I packed lunch, brought a kite, didn't check my phone once. Halfway through, my oldest asked if Grandma was still mad. I told him she probably was. Then he asked the question I didn't see coming. Are we still part of the family? I looked at him, and for a moment, I thought about saying something soft. Something that would make him feel better. But I didn't. I said, "We're building our own now." He nodded, like he understood. Then he asked if he could keep the drawing he made of her. I said of course. He folded it up and slid it into the pocket of his jacket. Like he needed to hold on to something, just in case. We stayed at the park until the sun went down. Then we drove home, just the three of us. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything.